Grace Miller knew rich people lost things all the time. Diamond earrings in champagne buckets, black credit cards between silk sheets, gold cufflinks under marble sinks, wedding rings left beside bathtubs by men who still kissed their wives in public. But she had never seen anything like the watch beneath the bed in the presidential suite. It lay half hidden in the shadow of the velvet bed frame, catching the late afternoon light that poured through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the St. Aurelia Hotel. One sharp flash, then another, like something alive was breathing under there. Grace lowered herself carefully onto one knee, her cleaning cart parked behind her, the suite silent except for the distant hum of San Francisco traffic below. When she reached under the bed and pulled it out, the air changed. The watch was heavy. Too heavy to be normal. White gold, black face, diamonds around the bezel so cold and perfect they looked like frozen stars. On the back, engraved in tiny letters, was a name, V. Marchetti. Grace stared at it. A woman like her could sell a watch like this and disappear. She could pay 3 months of rent, 6 months, maybe a year. She could buy better medication for Lily's asthma. She could stop choosing between groceries and electricity. She could finally hire a lawyer to make Lily's guardianship permanent before the wrong person came looking. Her hand tightened around the watch. Then she heard voices outside the suite door. Men, several of them. Low, controlled, expensive voices. The kind of voices that never asked permission because the world had already been trained to move aside. Grace stood quickly, heart climbing into her throat. The presidential suite door opened before she could place the watch on the nightstand. A man in a black suit stepped inside. Then another. Then another. Grace had cleaned rooms for celebrities, politicians, tech billionaires, and men who smiled like they owned the city. But the man who entered last did not look like he owned the city. He looked like the city had surrendered to him. Vincent Marchetti walked into the suite without hurry. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a black tailored suit with no tie, his dark hair pushed back neatly, his jaw shadowed, his eyes cold enough to quiet the room before he spoke. Behind him stood bodyguards. Beside him stood a beautiful blonde woman in a cream silk dress, diamonds at her throat, her red lips curved in a smile that never touched her eyes. And around the marble dining table were already a dozen guests Grace had not noticed before: businessmen, socialites, hotel executives, men with watches nearly as expensive as the one in her hand. They were all staring at her. Grace froze with the diamond watch pressed against her palm. The blonde woman's smile sharpened. "Well," she said softly, "this is awkward." Grace looked from her to Vincent, then to the men around the table. Every face in the room held the same expression. Not surprise, expectation, like they had been waiting to see what she would do. Grace's pulse pounded in her ears. She could feel her hotel uniform stretching tight across her body, the gray dress she hated, the white apron with bleach on the hem. She was suddenly aware of every inch of herself, the softness of her arms, the curve of her stomach, the cheap shoes on her feet, the way the rich guests looked at her like she was something that had wandered into the room by mistake. But she lifted her chin. Then she walked to the marble table. No one moved. Grace placed the watch gently in front of Vincent Marchetti. "I think this belongs to you," she said. The silence that followed was so deep it felt unreal. A businessman at the table swallowed. One of the bodyguards shifted his hand toward his jacket. The blonde woman's eyes narrowed. Vincent did not look at the watch. He looked at Grace. For a long moment, he studied her face with a stillness that made her want to step back and stand taller at the same time. Then he asked, "Where did you find it?" "Under the bed." "You knew what it was." "I knew it was expensive. Expensive enough to change your life." Grace felt heat rise in her cheeks. but her voice stayed steady. Maybe, but it wasn't mine. Someone at the table let out a small, nervous laugh. It died instantly when Vincent turned his eyes toward him. The blonde woman stepped forward, her perfume cold and sweet. "How noble," she said. Or maybe she realized there were cameras. Grace looked at her. "I didn't see cameras." "Oh, sweetheart." The blonde smiled wider. "People like you never do." Something cold passed over Vincent's face. "Cassandra." The blonde woman looked at him, still smiling. Vincent's voice remained calm. "Apologize." The room stiffened. Cassandra blinked once, as if no man had ever spoken to her that way in public. "To the maid?" she asked. Vincent leaned one hand on the table, close to the watch. His diamonds flashed. His eyes did not. "To Grace Miller." Grace's breath caught. He knew her name. Cassandra's smile faltered for the first time. Grace looked at Vincent, fear moving through her now. Not because he had shouted. He had not. Not because he had threatened anyone. He had not needed to. The most dangerous thing about Vincent Marchetti was how little effort it took for him to control a room. Cassandra turned slowly toward Grace. "My apologies," she said, each word polished with poison. Grace did not respond. Vincent finally picked up the watch. He fastened it around his wrist without looking away from her. "How long have you worked here?" he asked. 4 years. "And in 4 years no one taught you to look away when powerful men lose powerful things." Grace swallowed. "I was taught to clean the room and return what doesn't belong to me." A faint change touched his expression. Not a smile. Something more dangerous. Interest. Vincent stepped closer. Grace forced herself not to move. "Do you have any idea what you just walked into?" "No." "Good," he said quietly. "That may be the only reason Yuri's still alive." Grace's fingers went cold. Before she could answer, the suite doors opened again. 2 men dragged another man inside by the arms. His face was pale. His suit was wrinkled. Sweat shone at his temples. Grace recognized him. Mr. Harlan, one of the hotel's senior managers. He had once made her scrub a bathroom twice because a guest complained the maid was too visible. Now he looked like he was about to collapse. Vincent looked at him. "Tell her," he said. Harlan's eyes darted to Grace, then away. "It was a test," he whispered. Grace's stomach dropped. Vincent's voice remained flat. Louder. Harlan trembled. "The watch was placed in the suite this morning. Everyone in this room had access to it. Everyone was told something different. Everyone lied about whether they had seen it." Grace looked around the room. The businessmen would not meet her eyes. Cassandra stared at her like she wanted to erase her. Vincent looked down at the diamond watch on his wrist. "Everyone," he said, "except the woman paid the least to be here." Grace stepped back. "I don't want any part of this." Vincent's eyes lifted to hers. "You already have one." "No." Her voice shook now, but she did not lower it. "I returned your watch. That's all." Cassandra laughed softly. "That's adorable. She thinks honesty is a door she can walk back out of." Grace turned toward the exit. A bodyguard shifted to block her. Vincent raised 2 fingers. The guard moved aside. Grace looked back once. Vincent stood in the center of all that wealth, power, and fear, watching her like she had just cracked something inside him he had long ago buried. "You should ask yourself one question, Grace Miller," he said. She hated the way her name sounded in his mouth, too intimate, too dangerous. "What question?" His eyes did not blink. "Who in this room hates you now because I believe you?" Grace left the suite with her heart beating like fists against her ribs. By sunset, everyone in the St. Aurelia knew something had happened in the presidential suite. No one knew exactly what. That was how rich people survived scandal. They sealed it behind gold elevator doors and let the staff feel the consequences. Grace pushed her cleaning cart down the 17th floor hallway with trembling hands, trying to convince herself she could finish her shift, ride the bus home, kiss Lily goodnight, and pretend none of it had happened. But the hotel had changed. Security guards watched her too closely. Desk clerks stopped talking when she passed. A bellman she had known for 3 years muttered, "Lucky girl," like luck was something that could put a target on your back. Grace entered the staff locker room at 6:18 p.m. Her locker was open. Her purse was on the floor. Everything inside had been dumped out. Her wallet, her lip balm, Lily's inhaler. The folded drawing Lily had made that morning of the two of them standing under a purple sun. Grace knelt, panic rising. Then she saw the note taped inside the locker. Honesty is expensive. No signature. Her hand shook as she tore it down. Behind her, someone cleared their throat. Grace spun. Mr. Harlan stood by the lockers, his face pale, his tie crooked. "You need to leave," he said. "I was going to. No, I mean leave the hotel, permanently." Grace stared at him. "You refiring me? I'm suspending you pending investigation." "Investigation into what?" His eyes flicked toward the door. "Possible theft." Grace laughed once, a broken sound with no humor in it. "I returned the watch. You were found in possession of it. Because I found it under the bed. That's not what the report will say." Grace stood slowly. She had been tired before, humiliated before, underestimated every day of her life by people who thought money made them cleaner. But this was different. This was punishment for doing the right thing. "Who told you to do this?" she asked. Harlan's mouth tightened. "You should have taken the money," he whispered. Grace's blood went cold. "What money?" He looked ashamed for half a second. Then the shame disappeared behind fear. "Go home, Grace." She grabbed her purse, shoved Lily's inhaler inside, and walked out through the service corridor, refusing to cry where security cameras could see her. Outside, San Francisco was wrapped in fog and gold evening light. Cable cars moved along wet tracks. Black sedans lined the curb in front of the hotel. Guests came and went beneath the glowing St. Aurelia sign, laughing, wrapped in wool coats and privilege. Grace stepped onto the sidewalk. A black SUV pulled up beside her. The rear window lowered. Vincent Marchetti sat inside. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city noise seemed to fade around him. "You were fired," he said. Grace clutched her purse strap. "Congratulations. Your test worked." His gaze moved over her face, reading more than she wanted him to. "I did not order that." "No. You just created the room where it could happen." Something in his jaw tightened. The door opened from inside. "Get in." Grace laughed in disbelief. "Absolutely not. Someone searched your locker." She stopped breathing. Vincent watched her reaction. "You knew?" she whispered. "I know many things." "Then you knew someone threatened me?" "Yes." "And your solution is ordering me into your car?" His voice lowered. "My solution is keeping you alive long enough to understand why." Grace leaned closer to the open window, fear sharpening into anger. "I don't need a criminal-less protection." One of the bodyguards in the front seat turned slightly. Vincent did not move. "No," he said softly. "You need protection from criminals who smile in charity photos." Grace looked toward the hotel entrance. Through the glass, Cassandra Vale stood in the lobby, one hand around a champagne flute, watching them. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were murderous. Vincent followed Grace's gaze. "There she is," he murmured. "What does she want from me?" At first, Vincent looked back at Grace. "Nothing. You were invisible to her." Grace swallowed. "And now I looked at you in front of her. The words should not have affected her. They did." A quiet, unwanted heat moved through her chest, tangled with fear. Grace stepped back from the SUV. "I have someone waiting for me." Vincent's expression changed. Barely. But she saw it. "Someone." Grace's heart kicked hard. "My life is not your business. It became my business when my enemies noticed you." "You mean, when you noticed me?" His silence was answer enough. Grace turned away. "Stay away from me, Mr. Marchetti." She walked fast toward the bus stop, expecting him to order the car to follow. He did not. That scared her more. When Grace reached her apartment building in the outer Mission 2 hours later, Lily was asleep on the couch, with a blanket half off her legs and a stuffed rabbit tucked beneath her chin. Mrs. Alvarez from downstairs sat in the armchair knitting. "You look like you saw a ghost," the older woman said. Grace forced a smile. "Just a long shift." Mrs. Alvarez studied her, unconvinced, then stood. "Your baby ate soup. Used the inhaler once. No fever. Thank you." Grace paid her in cash she could barely spare. After Mrs. Alvarez left, Grace locked the door, slid the chain into place, and leaned against it. The apartment was small, too small. A cracked window in the kitchen, peeling paint near the radiator. Lilia's drawings taped along one wall like they could hold the place together. Grace walked to the couch and knelt beside the little girl. Lily was not Grace's daughter by blood. She was the daughter of Grace's younger sister, Hannah, who had died 2 years ago after calling Grace at midnight and whispering, "Don't trust anyone from the hotel." Grace had never understood what Hannah meant. Not fully. Hannah had worked private events at the St. Aurelia. She had fallen for a man with expensive shoes and no last name. Then she had gotten pregnant. Then she had gotten scared. 3 weeks after Lily was born, Hannah was gone. Officially, it was a car accident. Grace had never believed that. So she hid Lily from anyone connected to Hannah's past. She changed daycares twice. She took cash shifts. She avoided court because court meant paperwork, and paperwork meant names. Grace kissed Lily's forehead. "I'm here," she whispered. Lily stirred. "Auntie Grace. Sleep, baby. Did the castle people yell today?" Grace smiled sadly. Lily called the St. Aurelia the castle because Grace once described the chandeliers. No, Grace lied. Not today. A sound came from the hallway. Grace froze. 3 soft knocks. Not from Mrs. Alvarez, not from a neighbor. Too controlled. Grace stood, heart hammering. Another knock. Then a man's voice through the door. Grace Miller. She grabbed the kitchen knife from the counter. "Go away. I can't do that." She knew the voice. Not Vincent. One of his men. Grace moved Lily off the couch as quietly as possible and guided her toward the closet. "Hide, like we practiced." Lily's eyes widened. "Bad people. Just hide." The door handle turned. Grace's blood turned to ice. The chain snapped with one hard kick. 2 men entered. Not Vincent's bodyguards. These men wore dark jackets and gloves. One had a scar along his lip. The other held a gun low at his side. Grace lifted the knife. The scarred man smiled. "Where is the watch?" Grace's mind went blank. "I returned it." He stepped inside. "No, not all of it." The second man overturned the small table by the door. Lily's crayons scattered across the floor. Grace moved in front of the closet. "I don't have anything." The scarred man's eyes moved to the closet door. Grace raised the knife higher. "Don't." His smile widened. Then the window exploded. Glass burst inward. Grace screamed, covering her face. Men in black came through the fire escape with terrifying speed. One grabbed the scarred man and slammed him into the wall. Another disarmed the second attacker before he could lift his gun. The apartment filled with violence, silent and precise. Then Vincent Marchetti walked through the broken doorway. Rain clung to his black coat. His expression was calm, too calm. His eyes found Grace first. Then the closet. Grace backed away from him. "You followed me," she whispered. "I protected you." "You followed me." His gaze hardened. "Yes." Behind her, the closet door creaked. Lily stepped out, clutching her rabbit, her eyes huge and terrified. Vincent went completely still. The scarred man on the floor laughed through bloodied teeth. "Well," he rasped, "there's the secret." Grace turned cold all over. Vincent looked at Lily, then at Grace. The emotion that crossed his face was not anger. It was calculation. Then something darker. Protectiveness before he had any right to feel it. Grace pointed the knife at him now. "Get out." Vincent's eyes returned to hers. "Grace, get out. There are more coming. Because of you." "Yes." The honesty stunned her. He did not defend himself, did not soften the truth, did not dress danger in pretty language. He stepped closer, stopping just out of reach of the knife. "You can hate me in the car. I'm not going anywhere with you." The scarred man laughed again. Vincent turned his head slightly. One of his bodyguards pressed the man harder into the floor. Vincent's voice lowered to something almost gentle. "They know about the child now." Grace's grip on the knife faltered. Lily began to cry silently. Vincent looked at the little girl. "What is her name?" Grace did not answer. He looked back at her. "I can protect both of you." "You don't even protect people," Grace said, her voice breaking. "You collect them." A flicker crossed his face. "Pain, maybe. Gone too quickly to trust." "No," he said. "I collect enemies. There is a difference." Grace looked around her ruined apartment. Glass on the floor. Lily, trembling. Men with guns standing between her kitchen and the life she had tried so hard to keep ordinary. Her ordinary life was gone. Vincent had not destroyed it alone, but he had opened the door. Grace lowered the knife. "If you lie to me," she whispered, "if you use her, if you scare her, I don't care who you are. I will find a way to make you regret it." One of Vincent's men looked almost amused. Vincent did not. He stepped aside, making room for her to pass. "I believe you." That night, Grace Miller rode through San Francisco in the back of Vincent Marchetti's SUV with Lily asleep against her chest and the city blurring past in streaks of rain and neon. Vincent sat across from her, not beside her. That restraint made him more dangerous somehow. He kept his hands folded, his watch glittering on his wrist. Grace stared at it. "You said I didn't return all of it." Vincent glanced down. "The watch has a removable crown." "A what?" "The small piece used to set the time. It contains an encrypted key. I didn't take it." "I know. You don't know anything about me." His eyes lifted. "I know you had one clear chance to take enough money to change your life, and you chose to walk into a room full of wolves instead." Grace looked away. "That doesn't make me special." "No," he said. "It makes you rare." The words settled between them, too intimate for the back of a car filled with armed men. Grace tightened her arms around Lily. "What's on the key?" Vincent's expression closed. "The name of the person who betrayed my mother." Grace went still. Vincent looked out the window. "When I was 23, my mother was killed in a bombing meant for me. For years, I believed a rival family ordered it. Last month, I learned someone inside my circle helped them. And the watch? My father used it to hide evidence before he died. He trusted jewelry more than people." Grace gave a humorless laugh. "Looks like that runs in the family." His mouth almost curved. "Almost. The test was supposed to expose greed," he said. "Not involve you." "But it did." "Yes. So, what happens now?" Vincent looked at Lily sleeping in her arms. "Now I find the missing crown before Cassandra Vale does." Grace stomach sank. Cassandra. She has access to the hotel, my circle, and men who would betray their own blood for a seat at my table. She framed me. Yes, you knew that too. I suspected. Grace leaned forward, anger flaring. You suspected, and you let me walk out alone? His eyes sharpened. I let you choose. That's not noble. No, he said. It was a mistake. For the first time, Vincent Marchetti sounded like a man admitting something cost him. Grace hated that it moved her. The SUV turned through iron gates into a property hidden behind cypress trees and fog. A mansion rose above the hillside, all stone, glass, and shadow, overlooking the black water of the bay. Lily woke as they pulled up. "Is this a museum?" she whispered. Grace kissed her hair. "No, baby." Vincent stepped out first. Then he opened Grace's door himself. The rain fell softly between them. Grace looked at his hand extended toward her. She did not take it, he noticed. He lowered it without comment. Inside, the mansion was warm and silent. Marble floors, dark wood, art on the walls, security cameras hidden in corners, men who lowered their eyes when Vincent passed. A woman in a navy suit appeared. "Mr. Marchetti." "Prepare the east wing," Vincent said. "Child safe. No weapons visible. No staff without clearance." The woman glanced at Grace with curiosity, then nodded. Grace held Lily closer. Vincent turned to her. "You will stay here until I know who sent those men. I'm not your prisoner." "No." "Then I can leave?" "Yes." Grace stared at him. His eyes remained steady. "But if you leave tonight, they will follow. If you stay, they will have to come through me." The terrible thing was that she believed him. The east wing was larger than Grace's entire apartment building. Lily had a bed shaped like a little white boat, shelves of books, and a bathroom with gold fixtures she was afraid to touch. Grace stood in the doorway while Lily explored the room cautiously. "She needs her inhaler," Grace said. "It's already in the drawer beside the bed." Grace looked at Vincent. "How?" "My men collected what they could from your apartment. You went through my things. I preserved your life. There's always a prettier name for control with men like you." He stepped closer, not too close, but close enough for her to feel the warmth of him. "You should keep saying things like that." "Why?" "So I remember you were not afraid enough of me." Grace looked up at him. "I'm afraid of you." His eyes darkened, but not enough to become quiet. For a moment, the space between them tightened. Lily called from inside the room. "Auntie Grace, the soap smells like cookies." Grace looked away first. Vincent's voice softened, though not fully. "Sleep. Tomorrow will be worse." "That's supposed to comfort me?" "No," he said. "It's supposed to prepare you." He left her standing in the doorway, furious, exhausted, and more aware of him than she wanted to be. The next morning, Grace woke to find her name on every gossip site in San Francisco. Hotel maid accused of stealing from Mafia billionaire. Vincent Marchetti. Secret curvy lover. Diamond watch. Scandal rocks. St. Aurelia Hotel. There were blurry photos of her outside the hotel. Photos of Vincent's SUV. One picture showed her entering his mansion in the rain with Lily's face mercifully hidden against her shoulder. Grace sat at the kitchen island in the east wing, numb, while Lily ate pancakes shaped like stars. Vincent entered with 2 phones in one hand and murder in his eyes. "Who leaked the photo of the mansion?" he asked one of his men. "We're retracing it." Grace stood. "Don't talk around me like I'm furniture." Vincent looked at her. "You're not furniture." "No. Apparently I'm your scandal." The man beside Vincent looked down. Vincent dismissed him with a flick of his fingers. When they were alone, except for Lily humming over her pancakes, Grace shoved the phone toward Vincent. "This is my face, my name, my job, my child almost showing in a tabloid. Fix it, I will." "How?" His silence made her stomach twist. Grace's eyes narrowed. "No, you don't know what I'm going to say. You have that look." "What look?" The look rich men get before they decide a woman's life is easier to manage if they rename it. Vincent stared at her for a beat. Then he said, "Cassandra wants the world to think you a thief or my mistress. Either version makes you disposable." Grace crossed her arms. "And your version?" "My version makes you untouchable." "Which is?" Vincent stepped closer. "My fiancée." The word hit the room like thunder. Grace laughed. Lily looked up. "What's a fiancé?" "No one," Grace said quickly. Vincent's gaze did not leave her. Grace lowered her voice. "Have you lost your mind?" "Not recently. I am not pretending to be engaged to a Mafia boss. Cassandra believes status is armor. If I give you mine, she has to attack carefully." "You mean use me as bait?" "Yes." Again, that brutal honesty. Grace hated how much she preferred it to charming lies. "No." Vincent nodded once. "Then I'll find another way." That surprised her. He turned to leave. Grace looked at Lily, then the tabloid photo on her phone, then Vincent's back. "What happens if I say yes?" He stopped. "You appear with me tonight at the Saint Aurelia charity gala. You wear my ring. You say very little. You stay close." "Close how?" He turned around. His eyes moved over her face, not her body, and somehow that felt more exposing. "Close enough that no one doubts I would burn the city before letting them touch you." Grace's throat went dry. "And after?" "After I find out who panics." "That's your plan?" "That's the elegant version." Grace looked toward Lily. Vincent followed her gaze. "She stays here, protected, happy, away from cameras." Grace whispered, "I hate you for making that sound reasonable." "No," he said quietly. "You hate me. Because part of you knows I can protect what you love better than you can alone." Grace turned on him. "Don't confuse money with love." His face changed. For 1 second, he looked almost wounded. Then the cold mask returned. "I never have." The charity gala at the Saint Aurelia looked like heaven built by sinners. Crystal chandeliers poured light over marble floors. Golden flowers climbed white columns. San Francisco's elite drifted through the ballroom in silk and black tuxedos, pretending not to stare as Vincent Marchetti entered with Grace Miller on his arm. Grace wore a deep emerald gown chosen by Vincent's stylist and approved only after Grace demanded sleeves, comfort, and the ability to breathe. The fabric hugged her curves instead of hiding them. Her hair was pinned softly at the back of her neck. Around her finger was a black diamond ring so large it felt unreal. Vincent had given it to her in the car. "It's too much," she had said. "It's supposed to be. Does it mean anything?" He had looked at her hand longer than necessary. Not yet. Now, in the ballroom, every conversation died as they passed. Grace could feel judgment moving over her body. Too big, too ordinary, too visible, too close to him. Vincent placed his hand lightly at her lower back, not possessive enough to trap her, just enough to tell the room she was under his protection. Cassandra stood near the champagne tower in silver silk, beautiful and furious. Beside her was a man Grace did not know, older, sharp-faced, expensive. His smile made her skin crawl. Vincent leaned close to Grace's ear. "Dominic Calder," he murmured. "Rival family." Grace kept her face calm. "He looks like he collects secrets." "He does." And Cassandra. "She collects men who mistake beauty for loyalty." Grace glanced at him. That sounded personal. His eyes remained forward. It almost was. Cassandra approached with a smile sharp enough to cut glass. "Vincent," she said, "you do enjoy humiliating your friends." Vincent looked at her. "If you feel humiliated, Cassandra, perhaps you are standing in the wrong place." Her gaze slid to Grace. "And this must be your honest little maid." Grace felt Vincent's hand still at her back. She spoke before he could. This must be the woman who needed 12 rich people and a hidden camera to learn what honesty looks like. The air around them froze. Cassandra's smile vanished. Vincent turned his head slowly toward Grace. For a terrifying moment, Grace thought she had gone too far. Then she saw it, the faintest spark in his eyes. Fascination. Dominic Calder chuckled. Careful, Miss Miller. Men like Vincent admire courage until it becomes inconvenient. Grace looked at him. Then I guess we'll both find out how inconvenient I can be. Vincent's fingers flexed once against her back. Cassandra lifted her champagne. Enjoy the fantasy while it lasts. Women like you don't survive long in rooms like this. Vincent reached out and took the champagne glass from her hand. Cassandra blinked. He placed it on a passing waiter's tray without looking away from her. Then it's fortunate she's not here alone. The first gunshot came 27 minutes later. It shattered the glass wall behind the auction stage. People screamed. The ballroom erupted. Vincent moved before Grace understood what had happened. His arm came around her, hard and protective, driving her behind a marble column as another shot cracked through the chandelier above them. Crystal rained down like ice. Grace gasped. Vincent covered her head with his body. Stay down. Lily, she's safe. How do you know? Because I have more men watching her than this building. Grace grabbed his lapel. Vincent. The sound of his name in her voice changed him. His eyes dropped to her mouth for half a second. Then another bullet struck the column. He pulled her tighter. Around them, his guards moved with deadly precision. Guests crawled beneath tables. Cassandra was gone. Dominic Calder was gone too. Grace looked across the ballroom and saw something glittering near the shattered stage. A tiny piece of metal. The missing crown. The shooter had not come to kill randomly. He had come for the watch. Grace moved before she thought. Vincent caught her wrist. No. There. She pointed. His eyes followed. For the first time since she had met him, Vincent Marchetti looked truly alarmed. Grace, don't move. But the marble floor between them and the stage was suddenly empty. His men were focused on the balcony. The tiny crown lay beneath a fallen white rose, inches from a waiter's dead phone. Grace broke free and ran. Grace. She heard him behind her, rage and fear tearing through his voice. Another shot rang out. Pain sliced across her arm. She stumbled, but kept moving, dropped to her knees, and closed her hand around the crown. Vincent reached her a second later, shielding her with his body as his men returned fire toward the balcony. His hand closed over hers. His face was inches away. What the hell were you thinking? Grace breathed hard. That, you needed this. His eyes burned. I need you alive more. The words hit harder than the bullet graze. For one suspended second, amid screams and broken glass, neither of them moved. Then Vincent lifted her into his arms. Grace clutched the crown against his chest. The cameras caught everything. By morning, the entire country had seen Vincent Marchetti carrying the plus-size hotel. Ting ting, tar, time, time, ten, time, dine, while blood ran down her arm and his black suit was dusted with shattered crystal. The scandal exploded. Some called her brave. Some called her a gold digger. Some called her proof that Vincent had finally found a weakness. Grace did not care. She sat in Vincent's mansion while a private doctor bandaged her arm, and Lily cried into her lap. I'm okay, Grace whispered, kissing her hair. You promised no bad people, Lily sobbed. Grace looked across the room at Vincent. He stood near the window, one hand curled into a fist, watching the fog roll over the bay. He had not spoken since they returned. The doctor left. Lily fell asleep beside Grace on the sofa, worn out from crying. Only then did Vincent turn. You disobeyed me. Grace blinked. That's what you were leading with. You ran into open fire for your missing watch piece, for a key that means nothing if you die holding it. Grace stood carefully, keeping her wounded arm close. You don't get to be angry at me for surviving your world. His eyes flashed. I'm angry because you think your life is worth less than mine. Grace went still. Vincent stepped closer. You saw something I needed, and you ran toward danger like you were born believing your body was the acceptable sacrifice. That's not. It is. His voice lowered. I know that look. I've seen it in soldiers, mothers, men who owe too much money. I saw it in my mother before she walked into a car that exploded 30 seconds later. Grace's anger softened despite herself. Vincent looked away. She knew something was wrong. She went anyway because my father was inside. Grace whispered, I'm sorry. I don't want your pity. It's not pity. His eyes returned to hers. What is it? Grace did not answer. The silence between them deepened. He reached toward her wounded arm, then stopped before touching her. That restraint again. That almost. That terrible almost. That made her heart ache. Grace looked at his hand. You can check it, she said softly. His jaw tightened. Slowly, Vincent touched the edge of the bandage, his fingers warm, careful, almost reverent. No man had touched Grace like that in years. Like she was not too much. Not invisible. Not a problem to solve. Like she was something fragile and powerful at the same time. His thumb brushed her wrist. Grace forgot to breathe. Vincent's eyes lifted to hers. For one dangerous second, she thought he might kiss her. Then Lily stirred on the sofa. Vincent stepped back instantly. Grace looked away, shaken. He reached into his pocket and placed the watch crown on the table. You found what all of them were willing to kill for. Grace looked at it. Then use it. I did. And his expression turned lethal. The file named Cassandra Vale. Grace felt the room tilt. Vincent slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was security footage from 6 years earlier. A younger Cassandra stood in a parking garage beside Dominic Calder. Between them was a man Grace recognized from old hotel records. Hannah's boyfriend. Lily's father. Grace's blood went cold. No. Vincent watched her face. Grace stepped back from the table. No, that's not possible. His name was Julian Vale. Grace's breath left her. Vale? Cassandra's brother. The room spun. Grace gripped the table. Hannah had never given a last name. She had only said the man was from a powerful family. She had been terrified. Grace had thought she meant money. Not this. Vincent's voice was careful now. Julian was involved in the bombing that killed my mother. Later, he tried to leave Cassandra's arrangement with Calder. Your sister found evidence at the hotel. Grace covered her mouth. She called me that night. Vincent's eyes darkened. Hannah was killed because of what she knew. Grace shook her head, tears blurring everything. And Lily, Julian's daughter. No, Grace, no. Her voice broke. She is not theirs. She is Hannah S. She is mine. Vincent stepped closer. I know. You don't get to say that like it fixes anything. It doesn't. Grace looked toward Lily, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her bloodline had just become a weapon. Cassandra was Lily's aunt. Aunt by blood. Enemy by choice. Grace turned back to Vincent. Did you know this before? No. Don't lie to me. His eyes held hers. I suspected the Vale family had a connection to your sister after your apartment was attacked. I confirmed it tonight. Grace's heart cracked under the weight of it. So I was never random. At the beginning, yes. But now you are the center of a war. Cassandra thought she had buried. Grace laughed through tears. You brought me into your house, put your ring on my finger, and made my child visible to people who already killed her mother. Vincent's face hardened with self-loathing. Yes, the honesty hurt worse than a lie. Grace removed the black diamond ring. Vincent watched her do it without moving. She placed it on the table between them. "I can't do this." His voice went quiet. "Grace." "No. I trusted you because you looked at me like I was a person. But maybe that was just another test." Something broke across his face. Not fully, but enough. "I have tested everyone in my life," he said. "Except you." Grace wiped her tears. "That's not enough." She picked up Lily, refusing help, refusing his men, refusing his car. Vincent let her go, but when she reached the front door, he spoke. "If you leave, I will still protect you." Grace looked back. He stood beneath the mansion chandelier, surrounded by power, looking more alone than any man she had ever seen. She hated that part of her wanted to run back. "Then protect us from far away," she said. For 3 days, Grace lived under witness protection in a quiet house outside Half Moon Bay. Not official witness protection, Vincent's version. No phones, no internet, no contact except a woman named Elena who brought groceries and Lily as medication. The house sat above a stormy coastline, surrounded by cypress trees and cold fog. Lily liked it. She called it the Cloud House. Grace hated every second, not because of the isolation, because Vincent was not there. She told herself that was good, safe, necessary. Then, on the 4th evening, Lily disappeared. Grace had been making soup in the kitchen when the back door alarm chirped. One soft sound, then silence. She ran outside, shouting Lily's name into the fog. A pink stuffed rabbit lay in the wet grass. Grace picked it up and screamed. 15 minutes later, Vincent arrived by helicopter. He stepped out into the storm without a coat, his face carved from fury. Grace ran at him and struck his chest with both hands. "You promised." He took the blows. "You promised she was safe." "I know. You said they would have to come through you." His men spread across the property. Vincent caught her wrists gently, stopping her only when she began to shake too hard to stand. "Grace, look at me." "No, look at me." She did. His eyes were not cold now. They were burning. "I will bring her back. If you don't." "I know." "No, you don't." Her voice shattered. "She is my whole life." Vincent leaned closer. "And you are becoming mine." The words stopped her. Rain slid down his face. He looked almost angry at himself for saying them. "I don't want that," Grace whispered. "I know. I don't want to matter to someone like you. I know. I don't want to need you." His voice dropped. "But you do." Grace broke then. Not prettily, not softly. She folded forward, and Vincent caught her. For the first time, he held her. Not like a possession, like he was terrified she might disappear too. His arms closed around her, firm and careful. Grace pressed her face against his soaked shirt and cried until there was nothing elegant left in either of them. Then his phone rang. Vincent answered without releasing her. A woman's voice came through the speaker. "Cassandra." "Hello, Vincent." His entire body went still. Grace lifted her head. Cassandra laughed softly. "Before you threaten me, the child is alive." "She's frightened, but alive." Grace reached for the phone. Vincent held it where she could hear. "What do you want?" he asked. "The watch, the key, the original files." "And Grace." Vincent's voice turned deadly quiet. "No." "Oh, don't be romantic. It doesn't suit you. Bring her to the old ferry terminal at midnight. Come alone, or the little girl learns what happened to her mother." Grace made a sound like an animal wounded in the dark. Vincent's hand tightened around the phone. Cassandra continued. "And Grace? If you were listening, Ask him why his father paid Hannah Miller the week before she died. The line went dead. Grace stepped away from Vincent. What does that mean? His silence answered too much. Grace's face changed. Vincent, he looked at her, and for the first time since she had met him, he looked afraid of her. My father paid informants, he said. No. I don't know if Hannah was one. No. Grace. She was a waitress. She was scared. She was alone. She may have been trying to sell evidence for protection. Grace slapped him. The sound cracked through the rain. His men froze. Vincent did not move. Grace's hand stung. Her voice shook with rage. You don't get to turn my dead sister into one of your dirty little files. His cheek reddened slowly. He looked at her with something raw in his eyes. You're right. That made it worse. Grace backed away. I'm going with you. No. She asked for me, and I said no. Grace stepped close, furious. Lily is my child. She is bait. She is my child. Vincent's control snapped just enough for his voice to break. And, if I lose you both, the words landed between them. His chest rose and fell once. Then he looked away, as if revealing that fear had cost him more than any wound. Grace's anger did not vanish, but something inside it trembled. You don't get to decide my courage for me, she said. Vincent looked back at her. No, he said, but I can stand between it and a bullet. At midnight, the old ferry terminal near the foggy harbor looked abandoned from the outside. Inside, it was lit with candles, hundreds of them. Their flames trembled against cracked tile walls and rusted beams. Rain hammered the roof. The bay slapped black water against the pilings below. Grace walked in wearing a dark coat over the same emerald gown from the gala because Cassandra had requested she arrive looking properly stolen. Vincent walked beside her in black, no visible weapon, the diamond watch on his wrist. His men were nowhere to be seen. That did not mean they were not there. Grace had learned that about him. Cassandra stood at the far end of the terminal beside Dominic Calder. Lily sat in a chair between them, crying but alive. Grace nearly ran. Vincent caught her hand. Wait. Grace hated him for being right. Cassandra smiled. How touching. The maid and the monster. Grace stared at Lily. I'm here, baby. Lily sobbed. Auntie Grace. Dominic Calder stepped forward. The watch. Vincent removed it slowly. Cassandra's eyes shone. And the girl. Vincent's hand stilled. Grace looked at him. No, he said. Cassandra sighed. You always were stubborn. She turned to Grace. Did he tell you everything? Did he tell you his father paid Hannah? Did he tell you Hannah planned to run with Julian and sell the evidence to the highest bidder? Grace's eyes burned. You're lying. Cassandra smiled. I lie beautifully, but not tonight. Dominic tossed a folder onto the wet floor. Photos spilled out. Hannah, Julian, a hotel hallway, a baby blanket Grace recognized. Grace could not breathe. Cassandra's voice softened cruelly. Your sister was not innocent. She wanted money. She wanted out. She wanted to take the child and disappear. Grace stared at the photos. Then Lily cried again, and the world became simple. Grace lifted her eyes. Maybe she did? Cassandra blinked. Grace stepped forward. Maybe she was scared. Maybe she made mistakes. Maybe she trusted the wrong man. Maybe she tried to survive in a world built by people like you. Her voice strengthened. But she loved her daughter, and that makes her better than every person in this room who thinks blood is ownership. Vincent looked at Grace like he was seeing her for the first time all over again. Cassandra's smile faded. You really do believe goodness matters? Grace looked at her. No. I believe choices matter. Then she reached for Vincent's wrist, unfastened the diamond watch, and held it out. "Here." Vincent's eyes cut to her. Grace did not look at him. Cassandra laughed softly. "Smart girl." Grace walked forward with the watch. Every step felt like betrayal. Vincent stood behind her, silent. Dominic aimed his gun at him. Grace reached Cassandra and placed the watch in her hand, just like she had placed it on the marble table in the presidential suite. "I think this belongs to you," Grace said. Cassandra smiled. Then her smile vanished. A tiny red light blinked inside the watch face. Vincent's voice came from behind Grace. "No," he said coldly. "It belongs to whoever tells the truth while wearing it." Cassandra looked down too late. The watch had been recording, broadcasting, everything, to every screen at the St. Aurelia Gala upstairs, where San Francisco's wealthiest families had gathered for Cassandra's emergency press conference. To Vincent's men, to federal agents waiting outside, to the rival families who now knew Cassandra had betrayed them too. Dominic cursed and raised his gun. Vincent moved. The terminal exploded into chaos. Grace threw herself toward Lily. A shot cracked. Vincent slammed into Dominic, driving him into a column. Cassandra screamed. Glass shattered overhead. Men emerged from the shadows. Vincent's men, Calder's men, agents in dark jackets. Grace cut Lily's restraints with a shard of broken glass, hands shaking. "I've got you, baby. I've got you." Lily clung to her. Across the terminal, Cassandra grabbed a gun from the floor. She aimed at Grace. Vincent saw it. He crossed the distance like a nightmare. The shot fired. Vincent's body jerked. Grace screamed his name. He did not fall. He reached Cassandra and knocked the gun from her hand, then seized her by the throat and slammed her against the wall hard enough to extinguish the candles beside her. For a moment, Grace saw exactly what he was. Not the controlled man in the suit. Not the cold protector. The monster every room feared. Cassandra gasped, clawing at his wrist. Vincent's face was empty. "Vincent!" Grace shouted. He froze. His eyes shifted to her. Grace stood with Lily in her arms, tears on her face. Don't become her ending. The terminal fell into a strange silence around them. Vincent looked back at Cassandra. His hand tightened once. Then he released her. She collapsed, coughing, as federal agents swarmed in. Vincent turned toward Grace. Blood spread dark across his side. He took one step, then another. Then his knees hit the wet floor. Grace ran to him with Lily still clinging to her. "Vincent!" He looked up at her, breathing hard. His hand found Lily's head first, gentle, checking she was real. Then his eyes found Grace. "You're alive," he whispered. Grace pressed her hand against his wound. "So are you. Stay that way." His mouth curved faintly. That sounded like an order. "It is." He reached up, his fingers brushing her cheek. This time, he did not stop himself. Grace leaned into his touch, crying. Around them, sirens wailed. Rain poured through the broken roof. Candles flickered in pools of water and blood. Vincent Marchetti, the most feared man in San Francisco, looked at Grace Miller like the whole war had been worth surviving, only because she was still there. 3 weeks later, Grace returned to the St. Aurelia Hotel. Not as a maid, not as a scandal, not as Vincent Marchetti's fake fiancée. She walked through the lobby in a cream coat, Lily holding one hand, Vincent holding the other. Every employee stopped. Mr. Harlan stood near the front desk, pale and sweating. Cassandra Vale was in federal custody. Dominic Calder was dead. The Vale family's empire had collapsed in public. The St. Aurelia had been sold in a closed deal no one saw coming. To Vincent Marchetti, Grace looked up at him when they reached the center of the lobby. "You bought the hotel?" "Yes." "Because of me?" His face remained calm. "Because it was rotten." "Vincent." He looked down at her. And because of you, Grace tried not to smile. You can't buy every building that mistreats me. I disagree. Lily giggled. Grace shook her head, but her heart warmed despite herself. Vincent had changed in ways most people would never notice. He was still feared, still dangerous, still a man who could silence a room by entering it. But with Lily, he knelt to listen. With Grace, he asked before touching. And when anger moved through him, he no longer mistook control for love. He had given Grace legal help to secure Lily's guardianship permanently. He had testified, threatened, negotiated, and terrified 3 judges' clerks without ever stepping over the line Grace drew for him. He had not asked her to marry him again. Not once. That mattered. Inside the ballroom, workers had gathered. Housekeepers, bellmen, cooks, laundry staff. People Grace had known for years. People who had been invisible in the same rooms where millionaires lost diamonds and dignity. Vincent stepped onto the small stage. Grace stood below with Lily. He addressed the staff, voice calm and carrying. This hotel was built to serve powerful people and forget the people who served them. That ends today. A murmur moved through the room. Every worker terminated under Cassandra Vale's management will receive full review. Every wage complaint will be investigated. And the new Employee Protection Fund will be directed by someone who understands this place better than any owner ever did. Grace's smile faded. Vincent looked at her. No, she whispered. Yes, he said. The room turned toward her. Grace stepped closer to the stage. You did not ask me. Vincent's eyes warmed slightly. I'm asking now. In front of everyone? You're harder to refuse in private. A few workers laughed softly. Grace tried to glare at him. Failed. Vincent stepped down from the stage and stood before her. From his pocket, he removed the diamond watch. The room went silent. Grace stared at it. I don't want that thing. It's not an apology. Good. Because jewelry is a terrible apology. His mouth almost smiled. It's a reminder. He turned the watch over. On the back, beneath his name, new words had been engraved. The hour honesty saved me. Grace's throat tightened. Vincent held it out, not forcing her to take it. I spent my life testing loyalty because I believed love made men weak, he said quietly. For her alone now. Then you walked into a room full of liars and returned what could have saved you. You did not make me weak, Grace. His voice lowered. You made me afraid of becoming a man unworthy of being trusted by you. Grace blinked back tears. Lily tugged Vincent's sleeve. Are you asking Auntie Grace to be your fiancée again? The room held its breath. Vincent looked at Lily solemnly. No. Grace's heart dipped. Then he looked back at her. I'm asking her to let me earn the right to ask one day. Grace stared at him, this dangerous, impossible man, this Mafia boss, who had dragged chaos into her life, then stood between her and every bullet that followed. This man who had learned, slowly and painfully, that devotion was not possession. Grace took the watch, not because it was worth millions, because his hand shook when she did. Just slightly, but she saw it. She fastened it around his wrist herself. It belongs to you, she said softly. Vincent looked at her. Grace stepped closer. But your time doesn't. His eyes darkened with emotion. No, no. She placed her hand over the watch. That you will have to share. For the first time since she had known him, Vincent Marchetti smiled fully. Not for the room, not for power, for her. Later that evening, after the speeches ended and the hotel staff celebrated with champagne, Vincent pretended not to hate. Grace found herself on the rooftop terrace overlooking San Francisco. Fog rolled over the bay. The Golden Gate Bridge glowed red in the distance. Below them, the city shimmered with restless lights. Vincent stood beside her, close but not touching. Lily slept downstairs in a suite guarded by two men she had named Mr. Tall and Mr. Serious. Grace leaned against the railing. "I used to clean rooms like this and wonder what it felt like to belong somewhere beautiful." Vincent looked at her. "And now?" Grace breathed in the cold ocean air. "Now, I think beautiful places don't mean much unless someone sees you in them." Vincent's gaze softened. "I saw you the moment you put that watch on the table." "No," Grace said. "You noticed me then." She turned to face him. "You started seeing me when you let me say no." The words struck him quietly. He nodded once. "Then I'll keep listening." Grace studied his face, the scar healing near his temple, the shadows under his eyes, the man beneath the myth. "You're still dangerous," she whispered. "Yes, you still scare me sometimes." "I know, and I'm not sure love should feel like standing near a storm." Vincent stepped closer, stopping just before their bodies touched. "Then I'll be the storm that never turns on you." Grace wanted to tell him that was too intense, too much, too Vincent. Instead, she smiled through tears. "You need better poetry." His eyes warmed. "I'll hire someone." She laughed softly. The sound surprised them both. Vincent lifted his hand, waiting. Grace looked at it. Then she took it. His fingers closed around hers with controlled reverence, as if he still could not believe she had chosen to touch him freely. Grace stepped closer. This time, there was no fake ring, no hidden camera, no loyalty test, no room full of liars watching, just fog, city lights, and a man who had once believed honesty was extinct. Vincent lowered his forehead to hers. "I love you," he said, calmly, quietly, like a confession pulled from the deepest locked room in him. Grace closed her eyes. She thought of the hotel suite, the diamond watch, the marble table, the moment one ordinary choice had dragged her into a world of violence and velvet, betrayal and protection, fear and impossible tenderness. She thought of Hannah, of Lily, of every woman who had ever been underestimated because the world mistook softness for weakness. Then she opened her eyes. "I know," she whispered. Vincent went still. Grace smiled. "And I'm learning what to do with that." His breath left him like he had been struck. She rose onto her toes and kissed him. It was not gentle at first. It was relief, survival, all the almost touches, all the interrupted moments, all the anger, fear, longing, and restraint breaking open beneath the foggy San Francisco sky. Vincent's hand came to her waist, careful even in hunger. Grace held his face between her palms, feeling the dangerous man tremble beneath her touch. And far below, in the ballroom of the hotel where she had once been invisible, the chandeliers burned bright above people who finally knew her name. Not because she had stolen a diamond watch, because she had returned it. And in doing so, she had stolen the heart of the most feared man in the city. The next morning, when Vincent Marchetti entered a private meeting with the remaining families of San Francisco, he wore the diamond watch on his wrist. Everyone noticed the new engraving. No one dared comment. But when Grace Miller walked in 5 minutes later, carrying a folder of worker protection contracts and wearing no ring at all, every man at the table stood. Vincent did not tell them to. They simply understood. The woman beside him was not decoration, not weakness, not a temporary obsession. She was the only person who had ever walked into his darkness, told the truth, and survived long enough to teach him what loyalty really meant. Grace placed the contracts on the table. Vincent looked at her. She looked back. And for the first time in his life, the Mafia boss did not feel powerful because everyone feared him. He felt powerful because one honest woman had chosen to stay.